one of the greatest athletes in Special Olympics movement, those that they've made movies about, and has traveled the world advocating for our athletes. Loretta Claiborne is here to share her story with you, but she is the true spirit and the heart of the Special Olympics movement. So I'd like to welcome Loretta Claiborne.
Thank you. Good morning. Dobre Utra. Good morning. How are you all today? Thank you. It's an honor to be here. But before I get started, I love Mr. Martin. His son is a splitting image of him, and his son is actually going into law enforcement. Young man. But one thing I have to say, to my friend Mr. Martin, I am not the greatest Special Olympics athlete. There are over 5 million athletes who are great. And they only become great. That 5 million athletes only become great because of what you do. $55 million. Woo-wee! That's a lot of dinero. Mucho dinero. I can't believe it. But when I look here today, I thought about when I came here, I was home 2 half-a-days in the last month. And there's a little worry in the back of my mind that the security system is working. Because I live in a rough area. But you know what? I put my faith in God, and I know all of you believe in differently. But there is one God. We may call him by many different names. We might call him Allah, we might call him Jehovah, but there's one God. So I'm going to take you back. In the time I was born, I was a big old bouncy baby. Big baby. Oh yeah. And Rita had stair steps. To this day, I still call my mother Rita. It's not out of disrespect, it's out of respect. Just like when I walk down the street, she would tell me, you see a cop? I don't want to hear you call him a pig. You understand that? I know everybody else is out there doing it, but if I hear it come out of your mouth, your backside is going to be blacker than mine, and it's not pretty back there. My mom was a big woman. And she had a butt. And when she walked on that butt, it would go like this. And it would sway. And I would put my hands on the butt, and all of us, and she, after we get so big, yep, okay, you're getting a little too big now. The next one's coming. She had 7 children. And realistically, in the movie they said she had 6. She had 9. 2 didn't make it into this world. And then she adopted one later. But my mom, she came from a tough world herself. Being African American, she had to go to an all-black school. She had to learn the national anthem in one night. And all she knew was the black national anthem. And I looked at my mom and I'd hear the stories of what she struggled with. And as time would go by, I was just a little thing. I started walking at the age of 4. I was blind. Still today, I'm considered as legally blind. I cannot get a driver's license. And that's all right. I know how to use that dog, the greyhound. No, I'm not going to go out there and thumb. That's not my way. But I know how to make my way through life. And I remember her telling me when I was little, Loretta, you were different. And I would look and say, what do you mean? And I didn't understand. But when I would hear her stories about how she came up, I have it easy. But I'll never forget the time when she was about to take me to Eastern State School and Hospital, which is now closed. Laurelton State School and Hospital, up beyond Penn State. I was just at Penn State this past weekend. And I still want to go back. There's something in my mind that wants me taking me back there. But I remember her referring, I hope there's no children in this room, that she didn't realize that where she was going to send me was to a hell on earth. And I kept saying to her, I want to go to that school. I want to go to that special school because the kids are like me. I don't have to worry about somebody calling me B-O-Z-O, bozo, Clarence the cross-eyed lion. Yes, I had my eyes fixed, but I still look at you with one eye. I'm looking at the gentleman sitting here with his hand crossed, and I'm also looking at the lady. She just turned around and looked at him, and now she just turned around again. And yes, I used to cheat in school. I have very good peripheral vision. I taught martial arts for 28 years, and I would see a student do something to another student. I said, you move a muscle one more time. And the kid would look at me and says, Sensei Loretta, you got eyes in the back of your head. So I had the advantage. But when I look back, I didn't have the advantage. And millions of people like me did not have the advantage. They were about to be incarcerated for a crime in jail. You notice I'm using sign language. I was told I wasn't going to be able to read. I was told I wasn't going to be able to write. I was also told I wasn't going to be able to graduate from high school. And to my mother, most kids like me got a diploma. Yes, I sat in the basement, and the place was dark, and you could hear the things tingle, ting, ting, the pipes, as they kept everybody else warm. That was called special education. And we were not taught to read very well. But I had one teacher. She said, you might want to learn how to do timetables. You might want to learn how to do this. But I'm going to teach you life skills. How to have manners, how to have respect, how to take care of yourself. And the school system told her, oh, you can't teach them that. And she told them, I'm preparing these students for life. And when I look back at that, she was right. Mrs. Reaver, still smoking her cancer sticks. I went to visit her about 3 months ago. I'm a runner, and I run to get everywhere. I run or do my bike or hitch a ride from somebody or get a bus. And I decided one day to go out to see Mrs. Weaver. And she said, Loretta, I got to tell you something. I never told you this. When you came to my class, it was a special education class of 12 students. Somebody told me, one of the principals says, oh, you're going to get the worst, ugliest, black, retarded child you'll ever see. And when you came into my class, I only saw love. I only saw love. And boy, what a difference. When I first came to her class, I went to the corner. And yes, I lived an angry life. I used my fists and my feet. That's how I got away through life, fighting my way. And she said to me, Loretta, everything's going to be okay. And I still remember Miss Weaver to this day. She's 87 years old. But when I look back at the time coming up, and I think about the riots in 1969, Special Olympics started in 1968. 1969 in my town, I was sleeping in the bathtub because the town was on fire. Fire. Pow, 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 pow. Kaboom! As you hear the Molotov cocktails. And we would sleep. And I heard my mom talk about when she grew up. In 1941, she was at a theater. She had snuck into the theater because black kids couldn't go to the theater. And she remembers seeing this thing coming over, everybody must leave the theater. Pearl Harbor has just been bombed. And I remember her telling her, she said they had blackouts. I said, what's a blackout? Oh, the lights go boop. 1969, we had blackouts, 8 o'clock. You heard a honk, and you ran in the house. We was out there double dutching, and all of a sudden, boom, into the house. National Guard was in our town. Race riots were going on. Blacks wasn't liking whites. Cops were shooting everybody. And I thought, I hate cops. And I heard somebody say about a pig, and it was one of my brothers. And my mom looked at me, and she grabbed me and says, don't you ever, ever make that mistake again. You understand? as long as you live in my house, you have respect for that man out there. Because if it wasn't for that cop, it'd be like the Wild Wild West here. Don't you ever make that mistake again. And she snatched my brother. And today, when I look back, pig means pride, integrity, and guts. They took a negative and made it a positive. And when I look back today, if Eunice Kennedy Shriver would ask me to join Special Olympics, or the people at the shelter workshop where I worked at when I started in 1970, I would never be in Special Olympics because we were dodging bullets. We were not liking each other. But because of that strong mother of mine, she wasn't going to see it. And she didn't have much. I remember a time when we sat down, there wasn't enough food, but she made room for somebody else. Get on over, you ain't going to have a lot tonight. And she had pride. She had integrity. And damn it, she had guts. And today when I look here at you law enforcement officers and your spouses, I know the risk you're going to take. If you all have an iPad, go back and look up Michael Hill, York, Pennsylvania, second black chief of police. And I remember my Aunt Gussie had this beautiful hair, and it was black. Within 6 months, it was as white as a sheet, because she worried. She knew the risk. And my mom would tell her, oh, everything's going to be all right. And Aunt Gussie was thinking, I fear for my son, because my one son just got killed in the war. And now I feel for Michael. Michael ended up growing up. He retired from the police force. He was second black chief of police in our town. And now he's living in Dover, Pennsylvania. And I think back of how far we had come. And yes, when I look at our law enforcement today, you're going through some tough times. But through it all, what you do for people with intellectual disability, for their families, for their communities, you still rise to the occasion. And I want to thank you, because I know what it's done for me. It took that negative out of me and made me become a positive. Today, I serve on the board of Special Olympics Incorporated. Now, mind you, I wasn't supposed to be able to read. I was the first person ever to serve on the board of Special Olympics. I started in Pennsylvania. When I first served on that board, and I looked, and all I did was sat there, and I wrote a little letter. I'm not a good speller, but you can understand, because I spell the way I hear something. I said, I don't want to do this, because I think that I don't have no voice. 1989, I got another letter, welcome to the Board of Special Olympics, Pennsylvania. Then I was asked to be on the Board of Special Olympics down in Washington, which governs Special Olympics in 170 countries. And I'm constantly telling them, when there's an issue coming up, that we can do anything we put our minds to. And when I look at the law enforcement, I remember 1981, Reagan became president. I ran in the Boston Marathon for the first time, the first person with an intellectual disability to run in the Boston Marathon, and then ended up in the top 300 women. But that same time, something unique was happening in this country. And I always wonder what runs through that man's mind. A gentleman by the name of Richard Lemunion was running, and he had a torch, and he had 6 or 7 other people behind him in a little town in rural Kansas. Wonder where Dorothy is. And Toto too. But something was changing as they carried that torch. Today I sat back and looked at the miner's lamp, just a little tiny flame. And who would ever thought that that one day of running, saying, we are the torch run, mighty, mighty torch run, everywhere we go, people want to know who we are, and we tell them. Richard Lemunion, I don't know if he's here, but I met his wife. Like Eunice Kennedy Shriver, thank you so much for what you've done to make a difference in our lives. I just can't believe it. Usually, when you see something, it gets big and it drops. Eunice Kennedy Shriver, who would ever thought Special Olympics would become what it is today? I never forget her telling me in the office one day, as I went down in the office, and I thought she was there. I swear the lady smelled me. I'm trying to ease on into the office because I talked to her on the phone. We used to call each other every Monday night. And I could hear her, Loretta, don't tell me what you can't do. Show me what you can do. And that's what's happening today. Our athletes aren't telling people what they can do. They're showing you what they can do. And it's because of you, Mr. Lemunion. It's because of you, the law enforcement. It's because of you, the parents of law enforcement. It's because that you care. And no matter what happens today, yeah, I hear it all. I tried to raise some money for the run across America last year. I couldn't raise $1 because somebody saw law enforcement. Oh, ain't that the cops? I said, come on, you can give me $5 as much as I helped your group? I said, that's all right. I ended up raising $4,000 because I wanted that torch. I wanted that torch. So I found a new avenue. You're finding new avenues for our athletes to be their best. And I donated my torch to the Chris Pasatic Center. That run, I had the chance to run it. I couldn't even find nobody to run with me. But law enforcement officers came from all over, and I saw California. I said, man, this is big stuff. And they ran through areas at one time a cop couldn't go through. And we know, as I close, we cannot live in this world by ourselves. I heard unified, unified, unified. It's one world, and it should be one people. And that's when we come together, and then we create something called unified. We live together, we'll stay together. There's one world, and we have to learn to live unified, and it's up to you all. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. One heart, one mind, one world, one people, unified. Whoever came up with the word for our sports, when we start getting young kids to understand that just because somebody can't read as well as they or walk as well as them, they find out we all are unique and we all have gifts. So thank you so much for the gifts that you have given the Special Olympics and $55 million. God bless.